Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I want to say I have a very, very, very special guest. Her name is Angela Thomas. She is a professional psychic and clairvoyant. Also, she is a research psychic for the study of precognition. So, precognition means it's just the ability to see in the future. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with us
Thank you,
today.
Lauren. Nice to be here.
So now, can you kind of explain to me and also the listeners, because this is the first time that we're meeting, the first time that you discovered your psychic abilities and what led you to pursue this career in psychic forensics?
Well, great questions. Lauren, I can say that I had psychic experiences as a child, but at the time I would not have labeled myself a psychic because I just assumed everybody had the same experiences that I did. I grew up with kitchen table uh, ghost stories and phenomenon and things of that nature. So I thought, people are just doing this regularly. But it wasn't until I was into my teen years, especially my latter teen years, that I noticed, wait a minute, not everybody is experiencing what I'm experiencing. So it was not until later on, uh, my 20s, I was building up, building up. Again, I would not have at that time labeled myself as a psychic or clairvoyant. Uh, at the time, I was, living in the deep South. And that's a big no-no. Even though I spent many years in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is known for its paranormal and, a lot of things, psychics and things of that nature. But, I guess my crossing over into coming out as
Yeah.
a psychic was I have a Fortune 100 corporation sales and account management background at that time. And I read for a woman, and if you remember, of course, you might be too young, but AOL
Oh
was the
no,
place to
no. Yeah,
be, and
yeah.
they had just opened up chat rooms, but it did not have voice at all. It was all text in, so I could open up a private room, text the person in the room, and I did a reading. And so I got to a point that I said, listen, I said, between 2 hours to 2 days, there's a woman that by the name of Barbara that is going to be calling you for help. And I need you to help her right away. Something like that. And she's typing back, oh no, I don't know a Barbara. And my spirit guides were saying, yes, she does. I said, yes, you do. She said, listen, Angela, I can relate to everything that you've said here today, except I'm telling you, I don't know a Barbara. I don't have a Barbara in my family. I don't socialize. I don't work with a Barbara. And I said, well, listen, I'm just the messenger. Fast forward the following day, this woman gets in touch with me and said at 2:30 in the morning, following the reading, she got a call, and guess who it was from?
Barbara.
Barbara. And the thing is that Barbara happened to be the adult daughter of the neighbor, an elderly woman neighbor that lived across the street. So Barbara was living with mom as a caregiver to mom. The mother was her bedroom, she was immobile. Her bedroom was on the second floor, and the house had caught fire.
Oh wow.
So Barbara knew immediately, let me call the neighbors. Of course, I'm sure she called the fire department too, but
Right.
help me get mom out. So after hearing that, I said, you know what? I need to leave my corporate job and focus on this ability. And that's what I did. So that's when I publicly then said, okay, yes, I am a psychic clairvoyant, and yes, I do provide these services.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, when you said about AOL, yes, that dial tone, you have to connect.
Yes, yeah, dial up, man, dial up.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know when I talk to like younger people, because I mean, I'm 35. No, I mean, I'm not, I'm not too old, but I'm not too young either. But
Right,
yeah, when the Wi-Fi, it's like when their Wi-Fi is not working. It's like, I'm like, oh, that's right. You don't remember that connection that you had to actually wait for. And if somebody was on your landline, or they don't even know what a landline is, you couldn't be on the phone. It's like, get off the internet.
exactly.
My mom would always be like, get off the internet. Like, I got to use the phone. I'm like, could you imagine nowadays these kids? Oh my God,
Sure, sure.
they would be like, I can't live here.
We're so lucky to have Wi-Fi, I have to tell
Yes.
you.
Yes, it's so much more everything is more convenient, and that's what I usually say when I feel like I'm inconvenienced about something. I'm like, "Oh, this is just inconvenient." But it's like that's all it is, right? It's not like, "Oh, this sucks. I hate this." All that stuff. So,
Right, right.
yeah. So, speaking about, either criminal casework, for like, I do want to hear about when you track missing like persons. Can you kind of explain the process of, I'm assuming this would be remote viewing and how you
Yes.
use this?
So what I do is I use remote viewing, which was a protocol that was used by the United States Central Intelligence Agency for over 25 years. In other words, a psychic spy program. And the remote viewing protocol is successful if you follow it, right?
Right.
So I use remote viewing and a criminal casework matrix or matrices to do the work. So I am, because I am psychic clairvoyant, the clairvoyant allows me to go into the past. And so going into the past, like, let's just say little Susie has gone missing, last seen yesterday at the bus stop. Well, you have to have the ability to go back to the past a day ago, see where little Susie is today, and if there is any sort of in the near future where little Susie going to be recovered, right? So I use remote viewing and I use, like I said, matrices, which if you look at a police report, it's an way expanded type of police report. It's a report, these matrices uh, take me into areas that an investigator on the ground would need. So, how many miles and what direction is little Susie? Is there an abductor with her or another individual, or is she solo? Is this let's say, a child endangerment case or a kidnapping or whatever the case may be? But it is a very extensive report. So when I do a case, I will write the report up and forward it to an investigation department or a police liaison. So I never go to the site itself. Everything that I do is from the arm of my chair. So that's basically what it is. Now I teach others how to do what I do. I don't take on as many cases as I used to. Thus far, for many years, I have provided that service for free, but
Wow.
it does take hours to go through the process of the remote viewing because I do multiple scans, going through the procedure several times and documenting it in writing. So so I had never charged for that particular service. Now I don't deal directly with family or friends of the missing, whether it's the adult missing or the child missing. So it takes a lot of time, but I teach others how to do what I do so that they too can use it, whether they're using it personally or if they ever want to offer that service profession.
Yeah. I was gonna say I have a very close, near and dear story to my heart about that because obviously I feel like the listeners listening to this too will, I know that me asking that question, there's a reason why feel like I asked that question. But my story that's close to my heart is that's when, I was going through my severely, I want to say toxic divorce in custody. That is literally how not at the time. Now that I'm hearing you say this, I used it personally for myself, not even knowing what I was doing. Right.
Right,
So,
right,
and I used it to make sure my daughter was safe. And there was just a lot of things through 4 years that when I would bring it to my lawyer, I would bring it to different people. They would be like, "How do you know this?" And I wasn't able to say because
right,
it's like,
right.
I don't, right? Like it's how do you explain that? It's not like something that I did for, I was like personal, but it was like that way that the universe, spirit, whoever, you believe in is showing you that this is what's happening. So thank you for that explanation because now I think in 4.5 years, I just connected what I was doing.
Good, good, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that you have that ability too.
Yeah. I didn't, I guess when I was doing it, I didn't look at it like I wasn't doing it for criminal cases and helping, missing people, which I think is
Right.
a huge service. So thank you so much for that, especially with, everything that's going on in the world. I know that you have done amazing work. That's why before we started recording, I was like, I feel so honored to interview you
Oh,
because I'm
well,
like,
thank you, thank you.
you are like one of a kind.
Thank you very much. I work very hard on my
Yeah.
psychic services and my body of work.
Yeah.
So it's something I've built up for years. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the compliment.
I was going to say, it definitely shows.
Thank
Yes, you're welcome. So, talking about this a little bit later subject, I should say, what are some of the or memorable, I should say, or challenging cases that you feel like you have worked
you.
using psychic?
Yeah, some of them make you want to cry, and other ones, thankfully, knock on wood, have been recovered, but I can say more have been recovered deceased than alive. And generally, I have a beef, by the way, with the action that needs to be taken when there is a missing person. So, for example, an adult that goes missing, well, they say it's an adult, so he or she, they can leave on their own. They're adult people. Let's wait 72 hours, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
In the meantime, 72 hours is a long time if you're in danger
yeah,
or medically in trouble, right? With a child, I have a beef with the whole procedure. Now, federal law came out, what was it, in late 90s, that required law enforcement agencies to report immediately if a child had gone missing, and then the Amber Alert was sent out. Well, I loved Amber Alerts for children that were in danger
right,
back then. But today, I've noticed that there has been a politically correct shift that has endangered children through that Amber Alert agency.
yeah,
So, for example, I'll just say 4-year-old Johnny gone missing or has been abducted, last seen, whatever, whatever, town. But they oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes fail to name the race of the child,
right,
right? So let's just say that, there was a male abductor. And so they'll give the description Hispanic, uh, African American, Caucasian male, whatever the case may be, but they oftentimes fail to give the race of the child. So, how many 4-year-olds out there are with dad
Right.
or are accompanied by someone, an adult?
Right.
So, if you send out an Amber Alert in the region or the area, uh, how are they going to know?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, that's a missing child or the abducted child.
Right.
So I do remember some cases. I'll give you a positive one, for example. And normally I'm not called in until later,
Oh, wow.
and which is to me a problem, whether it's
Yeah.
myself or any other psychic out there that does the work. It's important that you being law enforcement, contact the psychic as soon as they get the case, because generally within the first hour of, let's say, an abduction, the child is killed. It
Wow.
used to be they had a good 48 to 72-hour window of survival, but there's so many aggressive sexual predators out there
Yeah.
that they, kill them very quickly.
Wow.
So anyway, I was fortunate enough to have contact, and it was a little missing girl. She was 5 or 6 years old that was playing in front of her house and on a sidewalk, right?
Mhm.
Mom would glance out, little girl was there, and suddenly she's gone.
Mm.
Anyway, fast forward, I get the case, and I am able to see that the little girl, where she went missing in front of her house, right next door on the corner was an old, like, hardware store building, some sort of, old building that had construction going on. So there was wood panels in the windows, but in the back of the place where the construction workers had put their supplies, like wooden panels and ladders and things like that, I saw her under a blue tarp that was, normally people would use to cover their woods or something that they don't want to get ruined.
Right.
And I was able to forward that to law enforcement, and they went there and they saved the little girl. So it was actually a construction worker that was the guilty party. So thankfully, the little girl was recovered. I can say I have had some cases that are memorable that were, not a great outcome for the child. I did a 29-year-old case, cold case, never thinking at the time when I accepted to do the cold case, I I didn't believe I could go 29 years back. Are you asking me to go 29 years back?
Yeah.
I didn't believe I could. So
Wow.
therefore, I didn't ground my energies. I didn't protect my aura. I didn't go through all the prep work that we psychics need to do, right?
Yeah.
I jumped in it. Well, I was wrong. I was able to go back 29 years.
Wow.
And that impacted me more than, you know, a lot of the cases.
Yeah.
Because, when you do a case as a psychic, you're just an observer. If
Right.
you have protected your aura and your energies and all this, you're not affected emotionally. But when you are not in that mode or not protected, you can take on the emotions, right? So thankfully, I'm telling you, I learned my lesson. Don't say you can't do this, because the information is going to come one way or the other. So I did provide the information, and let's see, that was in 2016. I took on that case, and last year there were two abductors involved with the murder of this particular girl. And I named that there were two. And one had died, from 2006 to last year. One had already died. The other one they did finally catch, and he's now in prison.
Oh, good.
So, some of these cases are simple and others are very complex. I was asked to do a cold case 4 years after the murders of two girls in Delphi, Indiana, which is still an ongoing case because only one of the three guilty has been put in jail and currently going through a trial, right?
Yeah.
So, but 4 years after I was called in to do that, and so I provided a lengthy report to law enforcement. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna say again, like this is incredible for, I think all, obviously not the guilty, but I I feel like a lot of people, like even people that are listening, I often feel like when it's like the cold cases, I know from a very, 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 like as long as I can remember, maybe 5, 6, I would always, my parents like to watch all that stuff. And I was always intrigued with that. Like I would, in my mind, I'd be like, oh, I know who did it. Like they would, it would be on TV. And I would always guess that person. And then
right,
that's
right.
what I started. I really always was always intrigued with paranormal and all of that stuff, right? Just kind of similar
Sure.
with your, like with your story. Um, I mean, obviously I haven't gone as far as, to work with, law enforcement, but I love the one thing that you said about your, especially there is, if you are psychic or you call yourself psychic or whatever I don't think people realize that they have to, I've learned the same, not a different lesson that you learned, but I've learned when I was doing a session with somebody, I did not protect my aura. I did not ground my energy, and I was
Right.
not the observer. And this was a couple years ago. And because people always ask me, well, how do you do this type of work? And I'm like, me as a human being, I'm an emotional, that's just who I am. I don't
Right.
want your emotions too. Like, I love you, I
Exactly.
will help you, but if it interferes with my own self, you're not going to get the best part of me, And yeah, so I love that you had said that because that's very important. And
Well, and I'm so glad that you pointed that out, Lauren, because
yeah.
I am one when I teach live and online psychic development
Yeah.
classes. Each class is 2 hours long. Each
Hmm.
course goes 6 weeks, right?
Hmm.
But I must say, in every single class, and on that course's private page, ground your energies, protect your aura. Well, here recently, I found out, which I won't name the name, that there is a mass media psychic medium, female, that's all I'm going to
Hmm.
say,
Yeah.
that has publicly said, oh, you don't need to ground your energies and protect your aura. In other words, once you've done it once, you don't need it ever again. And I was floored. I was floored. There is a misconception also for people that don't ground their energies and protect their aura that they go, well, but I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I don't deal with all those nasty spirits. I just stay with the good spirits. So why would I need protection?
Hmm.
So I'm here as a very experienced old lady psychic clairvoyant to say there's a reason. And if you understand energy and how it works with your physical, mental, and emotional body,
Yes.
you would be grounding your energies and protecting your aura every day.
Yeah.
I don't take a phone call until I ground my energies and protect my aura.
Yep.
I don't leave my home
Yep.
without doing the same.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm right along with you, sister. Every single time I come in contact with another human being, or just in, because
Right.
we just work, like just online, or, just in general, even my own daughter, like, it's like, I don't want your energy either. I just want to
Exactly.
stay in my little bubble. And I mean, there was times that I had to learn that lesson over and over and over and over again, to the point that I was like, I will never do that again. Yeah. But
Oh
yeah,
dear.
I have a feeling that I know who you're talking about when it comes to that. And I think the same thing. When people give guidance that I feel like is so misaligned, I'm like, that huge family that you just told that to is now going to do completely the opposite of what should be true, or what
Right.
I feel like, I want to say 99% of the psychic community believes to be true, and what they probably do every single day. Yeah. So,
Well, I can tell you that, as a clairvoyant, that's a mental medium, right?
yeah. Yeah.
I don't I don't offer that. Number one, it's not my biggest forte,
Right.
but the big reason behind that is because when I was not, preparing to do psychic work nor in a session, I literally, and this has happened several times, when I'm physically exhausted, I have had, each time a different spirit step into my aura and quite literally move my own consciousness over to where I can't hear what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. Now, thank goodness it's all had a great outcome
Right.
because the messages were lovely. But I thought, even if I'm not working as a psychic, I didn't get permission. It just
Yeah.
it just stepped in. So I know now, I know, even when you're not preparing to do a psychic session,
Yeah.
ground your energies and protect your aura. Now, I
Yes.
wrote a book called This Psychic Life, and one of the positive accounts about a spirit stepping into my aura is in that book. It's 15 short stories, but it's a story called The Waiting Room. And so, anyway,
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll make sure that I have most of your links, and how everybody can get in contact with you. But, I'll make sure that they can get in contact with you at
sure,
all.
it's quite the story, though. So, again,
I'm gonna check it out, because I'm like, maybe I know I need to read that book.
it's a quick read. They're all little short vignettes,
Oh,
you
that's
know.
even perfect. Yeah, that's even perfect. So just while as we wrap up, thank you so much for your time. And I
You're
want to honor
welcome.
your time too. So what steps do you believe that somebody should take, if they're, even just personally or professionally, in a, like, if they're going to go towards like psychic services industry? How could a practitioner advocate for all of these changes and everything that we talked about?
So, when you say all of these changes, define that a little bit better
So
for
like
me.
the change in what's a better word to say? From if they're using it personally versus if they want to now use it as like a service. Provide it as service, I should say.
Well, I can say that it's very important for one to find a mentor or mentors, find true material if they don't have access to a mentor.
Hmm.
But most people that are online now can access a mentor throughout the world, right?
Right.
So I would say learn from your mentor first how to prepare yourself properly, how to use psychic protection properly, and how to expand one's abilities. You know, I teach the psychic development. I teach not only to beginners, but experienced practitioners. So I literally teach a lot of psychics and psychic mediums to expand their abilities. So it's important to practice whatever you learn, practice it. Because without practice, you might as well just be wasting your time.
Right.
right? So find yourself a group or find yourself some mentors or whatever the case may be and practice. So, yes, that's
Yes.
what I would advise first.
Okay. And I was gonna say, and make sure you go check out Angela because she can come teach you. I know I am going to.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on psychicangela.thomas.com.
Okay. That's easy and perfect, right?
Right, right. Well, thank you so much, Lauren.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Angela on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave a review and share with somebody that you gain knowledge from listening to this. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.